back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This week in WordPress and SaaS, we've got a great guest. I've got my co-host. He is recovering from a back injury, but he looks better, actually. He does look a bit better, actually. He's more his normal self. I'm not sure that's totally good news for me, though, but there we go. We will find out. Our guest is Bowman, Dennis Bowman. And Dennis, would you like to quickly give us a quick intro, Dennis?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Dennis Dornon, husband and father to 3 children. I currently live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Some of you may know me as the guy behind the MainWP team, but for those of you who don't, I'm the co-founder of MainWP, the company responsible for the first fully private, self-hosted, and open source WordPress management plugin.
And it's a very good one. Yeah, that's great. And I've got my great co-host, Andrew Palmer. Andrew, would you like to give a quick intro to anybody
Certainly.
new?
I'm Andrew Palmer from Bertha.ai. We help people write where they work in WordPress with an AI copywriting assistant.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
We love Yoast.
Yeah, he says that every show, thanks. I'm not sure if he likes me though. So before we go into the main part of this, sometimes he does, sometimes he wants to kill me. Before we go into the main part of this show, I've got a couple of messages from a couple of major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. I'd like to point out that we've got some great offers from the sponsors. We've got some recommendations of some of the best plugins and services for WordPress, SaaS entrepreneurs, power users. To get all this great advice and goodies, just go over to WP-Tonic/recommendations, WP-Tonic/recommendations, and it's all listed on that page. So, Dennis, can you give us a quick outline of how you got into the semi-crazy world of web development, specifically WordPress, and then how did it lead to you deciding to start and develop MainWP?
Before the MainWP plugin, I was really all over the place, from working at AT&T Wireless, Sprint Cellular, being a busboy at a restaurant, and even a car salesman. While I was working as a car salesman, I started a car dealership review website that I was later able to sell and transition into a marketing agency. And then from a marketing agency, I became a full-time affiliate marketer. At that time, I was just using like simple PHP, Dreamweaver, building basic PHP sites, and had a couple hundred locally focused automotive-based lead generation websites. And just inserting, just inserting word changes into a file that changed the name of the site, manufacturer, models, things like that. And they're very cookie cutter. But then Google started cracking down on cookie cutter websites. And that's really when I really dug into WordPress. And once I dug into WordPress, I was able to make better websites that looked better and weren't as cookie cutter. But they're much more harder to maintain than the ones I was just making with PHP. But once I got into WordPress, I quickly put up almost another 100 sites. And I realized that even though these sites were better looking and more unique, they were much more painful to maintain. And after some time, I became close friends with Chris, another affiliate marketer who was also using WordPress. And he became the co-founder of MainWP. When we saw that affiliates such as ourselves need an affordable solution to maintain hundreds of sites in order to increase our profit margins. And that's, there were similar products on the market, but as an affiliate marketer, we didn't think they were private enough. I don't know if you guys know about being an affiliate marketer back in 2009, 2010, but it was really a tinfoil hat time. You didn't want anybody to know where your money sites were.
Yeah.
And exactly. And that is really the seed for our privacy focus, the paranoia that someone will find your niche and start exploiting it too. And when our competitors that we currently have, they're already existing when we moved into this space. They're well established.
Oh, Dennis, I'm sorry to interrupt, but linking hardcore affiliates with paranoia, I would never do that, Dennis.
Oh, it was a crazy time where it actually feels weird to me to be open about how we run our business, because back then you just didn't say anything. And we felt that there was enough other affiliates that we had met over time that we would be able to find acceptance in this. And we were, and happily it turns out we were right. People did want the privacy focus. They did want, nothing to be sent over to us where we could find out what their niche was.
Right, that's great. Over to you, Andrew.
Well, I think, the lovely thing about it is that it's self-hosted, right? So, right. I download it, I install it. Nobody can, I can put a strong firewall on it if I want to. I know that the security aspects of it are pretty much built in anyway. And it's mine. It feels as though it's mine. That's the lovely thing about MainWP. I totally get you came into the website building world from PHP, or just building cookie cutter websites with Dreamweaver and HTML, and open source wasn't really in your mind, so it must be a really weird feeling to know that people can fork MainWP, or they can fork any of your stuff. But the question here is, effectively, it's really powerful. It's a free plugin and a platform, and you monetize it by selling the add-ons. How did that feel when you were, or what has the experience been like to actually give something away for free that you've built? How's that make you feel, knowing that people can use the basic version forever for nothing?
Well, that actually makes me happy. And to go back to what you mentioned before, at first, because affiliate market paranoia, when we first released it, I really thought it was going to be forked 10 times. We wouldn't have a business, it'll be all done. But we haven't run into that. I mean, you have those GPL clubs that, of course, give everything away for free.
Sure.
But since we're open source and we're GPL ourselves, we can't do anything about that. You just have to accept that as part of your business.
Yeah.
But at the end, we did choose the freemium model specifically because it is easier to get a large audience. It's just easier to make more noise in the community and generate more leads. And as you mentioned, as we're self-hosted, the freemium made sense because our costs for new users are basically free. Whereas, say, a SaaS solution, you have a defined cost for every free users. And if users don't upgrade, it hurts you.
Sure.
So each SaaS, with Birthday AI, you have to evaluate every free thing you add to make sure it's not going to put you under. Where we can keep releasing things for free.
We give away 1,000 words a month, and it could kill us. But it's we've worked out that it won't actually kill us. It might wound us slightly, might end up limping. Maybe that's what's wrong with my back. But that's a great. I'll leave the next one with Jonathan. Jonathan, over to you, mate.
Oh, that was funny. I just want to ask a follow-up question about, obviously your main product is free. You've gone the premier add-on model. A friend of mine, Chris from Lifter LMS, utilizes that model very successfully. But it has its peculiarities, because, it's a peculiar model, very linked to WordPress or open source projects, isn't it? Have there been any things you've learned that you would like to point out that you didn't realize about that model after you decided to base your business model on it?
Such as, well, when we first got into some of the basic things, especially if you want to get into WordPress.org, it's nice to be in WordPress.org because it's a touch point, especially for an easy touch point, especially for people that we're trying to attract. We're not trying to attract new WordPress users. That's not really our market. Our market is WordPress users that are used to doing things. So we're able to just put all that on WordPress.org, and users are able to see what you do. They're able to see reviews, and those reviews are from a trusted source, which just gives you a nice little jump start. But I'm not saying there's not some negatives on being on WordPress.org too. Like you lose some valuable user data. Like if they came to your site, we don't have any of that information. You also don't own the client. I couldn't really think of a better way to put that, own the client, unless they choose to interact with you. And there's some other things I don't really consider negatives, but just things that you need to be aware of before launching a plugin at .org. First, you need to maintain at least one support channel on .org, and it needs to be top-notch since it's public-facing. So anybody's going to know if you're bad at support. So you have to be on top of that right from the get-go. And you also need to stay within the WordPress.org rule set if you want to build there, because they can kick you off at any time. And as I mentioned earlier about reviews, you really need to stay on top of those reviews, because if those go south, it's going to present you in a much negative light.
Right. The next question, about working with third-party services and plugins in the WordPress ecosystem. I actually know Vito. Obviously, Andrew is in business with Vito, but I'm not sure if Vito would deny this, but I think over a year ago I suggested to Vito that he should approach you, and I suggested that it was an excellent partnership, and I thought he had just thought about it, and then it came across that they had partnered, Vito and his company had partnered with you. But can you give some insight? Has it been a major element of expanding your company and these third-party partnerships? And if yes, have you got any advice and insights around that, Dennis?
I just want to clear up a little bit here with the third-party partnerships, because it does look like we have a lot, and that's not really correct. We have about 10 third-party partnerships, but a lot of the things you see in us, we're actually just starting getting more into partnerships. The early extension integrations were written by us to provide our users with plugins they wanted to be able to control directly from the dashboard. If I can give an example, we knew the WordFence plugin was popular among our users from the feedback we'd gathered. So we wanted them to be able to easily manage that. You've all used WordPress, so just imagine this particular plugin has lots of options, settings. Let's say each site takes like 3 minutes to update. The average MainWP user has 50 sites. So that takes you about 2.5 hours if you wanted to set up those WordFence on all 50 sites. And that's a large chunk of your working day. And I would say those are more one-way partnerships, since we, of course, promote the plugins we now integrated with over other plugins.
Sure.
But back in September of 2020, we started focusing on how to provide other developers with an easy way to integrate with us instead of us doing the bulk of the work. This change back then included adding over 500 hooks for people to hook their plugin into, code documentation on mainwp.dev. And a bit later, we developed the REST API that made the partnership with Vito and Adoram possible.
Yeah, it's a perfect marriage, that one, because it's two management platforms, one for maintaining sites, making sure they're secure, making sure they're updated, and one for client collaboration as well, within almost making a new platform. So it's a great integration. Yes, I do know Vito very well. I helped him with the marketing of WP Feedback. Yes, he's co-founder of Bertha.ai. And I was an early adopter of Adoram as well, which I've got to say, I actually paid for. He's never paid me back, but never mind.
It's funny, I'm still paying for it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm still paying for it now.
He's not the keenest on discounts.
I got a lifetime membership, so it's not a problem. One of the questions that we all have to ask, you've got, looking at your support or looking at your plugin downloads from WP.org, is that the true figure, 500,000, or does that change when people upgrade to the pro version? Do you lose your users on WP.org? And also, that's a lot of secondary question with that. That's a lot of support, or a lot of potential support that you're getting involved there with 500,000 users. How have you scaled up? Have you done it out of your back pocket, out of sales, or have you had some investment?
No, we haven't had any investment. I'm happy to say we're fully bootstrapped, which means we're not, beholden to anybody but the MainWP users.
Sure.
And we're debt free too. The MainWP team and users are the only one making any decisions and plans when it comes to MainWP. But you know how it goes with plans. You make some, can't stick to it, market changes, things like that. A lot of times we'd often say we're going with project A, and end up building project D instead because of the way the market changed. But no, we have not taken any investment. And that's what I mean, it's tough.
But it's tough though. I mean, people email you all the time. I know that I get emails from venture capitalists about Bertha, and I meet with them and everything, and I'm not sure that it's the right way to go for investment. But a lot of plugin developers are going out there and saying, you know, I'm sick of being bootstrapped. I need extra money to do this, and this, or to steal a march on my competitors and stuff. But you've managed to do that from the get-go. You managed to bootstrap it and make sure that it's you know, a stable product. What's your crew looking like? How many people you got working with you?
We have 7 that are full-time, and then we have a couple part-time writers. The majority of our team is support. I'm very keen on giving support. We do not charge for support. Even our free users get the same type of support. We try and get people to go to our own support forum. We don't have any kind of Facebook presence as far as support. There's a MainWP user group, but that's not controlled by us.
Sure.
We want people to go to managers.mainwp to get answers, and they can even submit a ticket. We really believe in support. We just want to make sure that when somebody gets into MainWP, if they're running into problems, they can come directly to us. They don't have to pay extra to get support. They don't have to wait. We try and have a quick turnaround time, especially during business hours. But the majority of our staff is support staff. So we have people answering tickets. We have people the public-facing people that you see in the forum. They do jump to different Facebook groups when it's needed. But that's really what we're focused on, keeping people happy. And I really think that's what's one of the things that help us grow, is because people are free. They're getting the free product. They're not expecting amazing support, and we give them amazing support. And next thing you know, they're upgrading to pro, and we're able to keep going.
Yeah. I had a guy the other day that literally went pro because of the support we gave him, and it wasn't anything. There was nothing wrong with the plugin per se, but he said your support has been so excellent. You know, it was a hosting issue and APIs and things like that, which we fixed for him. But you know, he actually upgraded to pro to say thank you for the great support, which is a great thing. Right, Johnny, over to you, mate.
Oh, thanks.
We actually see that a lot, the upgrade from support. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's time for our middle break, folks. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. Just want to point out, I do a weekly newsletter, the WP-Tonic newsletter. We discuss the Friday roundtable main stories. Plus, I write an editorial. I also like to say that some of the panel will be adding their own articles to the newsletter, and anybody that joins us on the live feed regularly will be open to contribute to the newsletter as well. So if that sounds interesting, go to the WP-Tonic and you can outreach directly, or on the WP-Tonic Facebook group page. You want to join that as well. So it's I just want to follow through the last part of the first half. I see a lot of people say, you know, they shouldn't take any venture capital, they want to bootstrap it. I think bootstrapping to the right stage really helps, because then the more you can bootstrap it, the less equity you have to give somebody. And also, I think there's all different types of angel investment, VC money. You know, I know Rob Rowling quite well. Him and his wife, and from Tiny Seed, and I think they're excellent partners. Do you regret, or are you always re-looking at your position about taking any external investment, or don't you think it would really help your company and where you want to take it anyway, Dennis?
I like to be in control. We've had a couple of offers to be bought out. We haven't had really any investment offers, but even with just being bought out, I would lose control. And one of the things, even though I don't get out and talk to the community as much as I should, I still want to be in control of what we do. And I do read what our people are saying, and we do keep track on the feedback form. So it's not anything I've searched out, and it's, not really anything we've been offered with, a partial, just giving us money. That's not, hasn't been happening. The only thing we've really got is full on buyout offers. And,
sure. They come along thick and fast as well. Quite often, I sold Elegant Marketplace to InMotion Hosting, and it took them 3 years, 3 questions. They asked me once a year, and in the third year I went, yeah, go on then, let's have a chat about it. So it's a tough decision to make. Depends what your exit plans are. We're all entrepreneurs here. We all like to think that we can build businesses. My philosophy has always been to build it, grow it, sell it. With any business I've had. So it depends what your attitude is, but you're obviously very happy with doing what you're doing, and you don't really want to get rid of it, and you're young enough to carry on with it. And also the thought is, well, I could sell it. Well, what am I going to do? What do I do next? And if you haven't got that next plan in your brain, you just don't know what you're doing. So you don't know what you want to do. So basically, if you had a time machine and you went back to the beginning of developing MainWP, what would you tell yourself that would be really helpful, knowing what you know now? It's like almost asking your 13-year-old self, what's going on, Dennis, and how what have I learned, and what could I teach my pre-MainWP Dennis Dornon?
We've been doing this for so long. I've made hundreds of mistakes. But the two that probably bother me every day now would be, I would tell myself to get out and talk with the WordPress community more. I'm just shy by nature. And of course, as a non-coder and non-designer, the imposter syndrome that we all really have, it has stuck with me, and it's really kept me from reaching out. And I should have been doing interviews like these years ago. I just wasn't ready to get out there and try and. You
seem very friendly, Dennis.
Thanks, but it's one of those things where you don't know if you're going to say the wrong thing.
So, do you go to WordCamps, or have you attended WordCamps?
We've sponsored a few, and I've been to a few. I didn't talk to anybody, so they weren't money makers for us, because I would just sit behind the table we were sponsoring and hand out whatever swag we were handing out, and it just wasn't for me. I'm perfectly happy just staying in my office all the time and not really talking to anybody.
I get that. I mean, people don't believe that I'm actually shy, but I am. I do get that. I remember I wandered into a meeting with one person, and then he said, "Oh, I'm great, you're here, Andy." And it was when I was doing printing, and he took me into the boardroom. We're just doing our budget for the next year, and we all want to talk to you about the printing budget. I'd been in printing for 6 weeks, so you can imagine. I was like a rabbit in the headlights. So I understand the shyness and the not being able to communicate what you want to communicate at events, or when you're doing a live speaking or stuff like that. I get it. I absolutely get it. And the imposter syndrome, well, you don't need that. You need to know about that. I'm not a coder by nature. I've got a few plugins. Jonathan's not a coder by nature. He's built a lovely business in LMS.
Oh, I actually was, Andrew. I actually was an active developer. Shock horror.
Were you? I'm going to have to get you on board with me then. I need another.
No, I haven't actively coded, apart from
exactly
up my own website, for about 5 years. But for about 6 to 7 years, I was an active developer.
Yeah, and I think depending what level it is, but I certainly used Dreamweaver in the beginning. I was building websites for Netscape. That's how old I am. It's just and you learn. I learned HTML. I went to night school to learn HTML while I was doing printing, because I saw the future of the web. But don't worry about your imposter syndrome. You're a successful businessman, and that's all you need to know. Really.
It's just hard to know what you're going to talk about in those particular situations. I did know a little bit of coding back when I was with AT&T Wireless. I learned Code Fusion for a minute, and then lost all that.
Yeah,
is that by the reaction of both of you, Code Fusion? Was it Was it appropriately named?
Cold fusion. We used to go out.
Cold fusion.
Cold fusion. Yeah, and it
I
was,
thought you said code fusion.
actually, it wasn't. Yeah, you had to code as well, but it was almost a precursor to a page builder, wasn't it? It was there was a bit of page building stuff going in at CMS and all that kind of stuff, but it was quite complex and quite heavy. It's the Flash days, that's we all had to learn a little bit of Flash and stuff like that. So yeah, coding is, I'm glad it's behind me now. What I'm glad about that I did do a little bit of coding is that I can spot a little syntax error or a dropped forward slash or a dropped bracket or not closing a comment properly within CSS and why it's caused those, or not closing the HTML comment, whatever. And we spotted one. We had one in Bertha and we couldn't understand why something was happening, and I just went, well, we haven't closed the comment down, there's a chevron missing, so get on that, and it was fixed. So you can kind of feel through your experience, your years of experience, but really as business people, as entrepreneurs, we want to think about where we're taking our businesses. So what's the forward or the future for MainWP? What does that include?
Well, we're going to continue obviously upgrading free people, so we're going to keep adding new free things because I think that's what really separates us as MainWPs. We're going to give away as much for free as we can. And we have a pretty big update coming later this month, which will add a whole bunch of more free things for people. Wow. And then I'm also going to keep pushing these third-party integrations like with Vito. We've had a lot more reach out in the last few months. I'm not sure if that's the economy or what's changed, but a lot of plugin people are now coming to us. And we have a really big one coming up in September that was developed completely without our help. Third-party integration, we're going to help promote them, but I don't want to give anything away until they're ready to announce it, but I'm very excited about that. But
well, how do you feel about, I'll just interrupt you, how do you feel about the Atarim integration? How did that, in your mind, what did you see the advantages to it, or did you think there would be benefits with it? And I know that you've did a webinar yesterday, I think it was, and we're talking on Thursday the 18th today, but you did a webinar yesterday talking about the integration that Atarim have done with MainWP. How did you feel about that kind of situation manifesting itself?
As I was saying earlier, since I am a subscriber, I already knew the product, so I knew it would fit perfectly. One of the best things about that partnership, though, is everything I learned from Vito. Before Vito taught me everything about it, we were just focused. We would just release things. Maybe send an email. We might do a video, but most of the time we didn't. We just released things and we'd go on to the next thing, and hopefully our people liked it. We get feedback from them in the forums and stuff like that they love this new idea, but we didn't push anything.
Sure.
We just let it go. Like, we released it into the world, and if you loved it, you loved it. If you hated it, you hated it. It didn't matter. This is what we were doing. But now we've learned how to set up timelines, how to correctly work with a partner, things like that. We just learned from Vito, and I couldn't be happier with the integration, not only from the standpoint of how it works with MainWP, but from how it's going to change MainWP overall going forward, just from what I've learned.
Just from the marketing perspective and the training perspective. Yeah, exactly, because people are sponges for knowledge. I get that. So Johnny, what else?
Before we wrap it up for the podcast part of the show, so there's a lot of flux and discussion about all this, but I was going to put it, have you looked at really providing a SaaS-based, a cloud-based version? Have the standalone, you can roll your own, put it on your own server, but also have an actual standalone SaaS-based version of it for those that don't want to run it themselves. I would have thought that there might be two camps there, really.
Well, I think that really comes to just knowing your particular niche. I mean, we might not be for everybody. There's other WordPress managers out there, and I haven't really thought of a SaaS model. I've tried thinking of ways that we could provide, hosting with the MainWP dashboard already attached to it. A few years ago, we tried that with Cloudways. It didn't really have much traction at the time. So it's kind of something I've stayed away from because I don't even want to be tempted to have that information. So I just want it. So if we did anything like that, it would have to be through their own hosting, that we would just provide the hosting for them to make sure it was perfect, but I still want it separate. So it's one of those middle grounds where I haven't really dove too much into it, because as soon as I start diving into it, we get into, well, I'll have this additional information. Well, I don't want that information because that's not what we're about. So I've just kind of just stayed away from it.
All right, fair enough. You know your clients. So I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Dennis, are you okay to stay on for another 10 minutes? It's not been that
Absolutely.
bad, has it, Dennis? I know it's not been as bad as a dentist, has it? Because I had the pleasure of that last week, and that was extremely painful and extremely expensive. What a combination, Tribe. Pain.
Pay for the pain, man. Pay for the pain. Yeah.
I used to do that regularly in Soho, but not the dentist. But there we go. So that kind of comment gets me into trouble. So, Dennis, how can people find out more about you and MainWP?
You can visit us at MainWP.com. And if you're a developer and want to learn more about how to develop for MainWP, go to MainWP.dev.
All right. And Andrew, how can people find out about what you're up to and scheming for that particular month?
Well, you can go to thisisandrewpalmer.com, and you can get me on @ArniePalmer on Twitter and @BerthaAI_, and you'll see what I'm all about.
He's always up to something, listeners and viewers. Always planning or something. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. We've got some fantastic guests coming up, like Dennis, over the next couple months. You're going to be blown away. I think we've got some really interesting discussions coming. We love you to join us, and please tell other people in the WordPress SaaS community, because I'm sure they would learn a lot from our great guests and our discussion. We'll be back next week. See you soon, folks. Bye. So comes the bonus content. So, Dennis, are they? I know you like to just live in your little office and not venture. I know it's stressful. Yeah. This has been stressful as well, but you seem to be smiling, so I presume it's not been too bad. But are there any people in the WordPress and in the general SaaS entrepreneur community that you really follow and you really like their business philosophy and attitude? Are there any names that come to mind?
Of course, as we just talked
apart from Andrew,
yeah, Andrew and Jonathan, I listen to you guys every week. So yeah, of course, you guys.
You can come back anytime you like, Dennis.
Thanks. If I had to boil it down to specific people, and really just using recency bias, because I have been doing this so long, and most of my communications have been through emails. I would have to say, of course, Vito Peleg, as I talked about earlier, from Adoram and Bertha AI. And I would also add Donata Stroik-Skillroad of Agency Attorneys in Termageddon. Donata has been helping me understand the different privacy laws better to ensure that not only are we covered as a company, but the MainWP plugin covers stays legal for our clients too, the people using MainWP. So what we do is we work together to be sure the plugin not only is legal for existing laws, but we also try and future-proof it from other laws by collecting as little information as possible. She even created what I think may be one of the first sets of privacy policies directly related to the plugin itself and not the website. She created these privacy policies for our MainWP dashboard and child plugins, which tell you precisely what information is being collected by the plugin. And I don't know of any other plugins that have a privacy policy directly for them.
I don't. I actually, Donata and Hans are really good friends of mine. I have my own wardrobe there. I leave my clothes there when I visit Chicago, so I stay at their place. I'm not allowed to go to America without going via Chicago. So, I know that. And I know that Donata, not only is she president of Termageddon, and Hans is an excellent salesperson and account director of that business. But it has changed a lot of web developers' lives because it's just so easy to go to say to your clients, go to Termageddon, or I'll do it for you. You know, it's $99 a year, or if you're a developer, you can sell it for as much as you like.
I actually use it on the summit.
Yeah, me too. I use it on every single website I build, you know, and it's on Bertha.ai. It forms and on Atarim, you know, it forms the basis of our privacy policy. And that's what I was actually going to inquire about. That is that you
have to invite them on the show, Andrew.
Well, they'll come on the show willingly, of course they will. But you know, I love the fact that you are GDPR compliant. You know, I was going to say, how did you get there? Because I didn't know about your relationship with Donata in her attorney role. But there's a lot of people in the world. Let me
straighten out real quick, just because she'll be. She always wants me to point this out. The role she helps me in is not through Termageddon. She's helped me through agency attorneys.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no, it's a separate. It's a separate thing. It's definitely not Termageddon. No, and I know that she helps out quite a few other people in the hosting space and stuff like that. She won't mind me sharing that, I'm sure. But that's the whole point, is that you've taken privacy, you've grabbed it by the neck, for want of a better phrase, and said, right, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to be privacy focused, which is tough in the WordPress world because, you know, there's users, there's people with their email addresses in WordPress websites all around, you know, in the thousands of websites that you guys help people manage. And by making it a self-hosted situation, that means that you've put your customers in control of their own privacy policy, if you like, and having each of your separate plugins having their own privacy policies is, I think, quite unique. And it's something that every plugin developer should look at, for sure. Yeah. So I applaud you for that. I really do think that's admirable, because it's a tough area, GDPR and privacy policy, and every single state in the US will have their own privacy policy soon. And you know, we've got the German situations and the Austrian situations where we're saying that analytics is actually illegal, so it's got to be taken off. So there are opportunities for privacy policy or privacy focused companies out there, and you're one of those. I actually think you should. I'm not giving you advice here, but I'm just saying it's not something that I was aware of until yesterday, for instance, you know, when I saw it, and I really investigated MainWP, and I'm gonna have a little test of it. And one of the questions I wanted is that there's a UK host. It's very big. It's quite big. It's agency focused. They've got a fantastic reseller thing. It's 20i.com. They're actually a competitor of yours now because they've put in their own management system of how to manage websites. We know GoDaddy Pro has that facility. How does that ever enter your mind that the hosts are going to encroach on your business or your opportunities?
We've been seeing it for a while. I mean, ever since Managed WP was bought out by GoDaddy,
sure.
you would think that they were coming for you, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think the thing that will keep us separated from, you know, other SaaS systems that may be bought is that we are privacy focused. So even if we're bought, none of your information goes to them. So if you get bought by a host that say is also in the same market you are, like not to pick on GoDaddy, but they also sell to small businesses, and so you don't know what information is being collected that can be sent over to the salespeople for the small business side that's coming from Managed WP. But with us, even if we're sold to a host, they're not getting any of your information. So everything still stays private. The most they get is your name and your email address. That's all you get. All anybody would get from us, because that's all we collect.
Yeah. Well, you need the email, don't you?
Yeah, of course. We try and grab that after, you know, the first touch point at WordPress.org. We try and give away a free extension as quickly as possible so that we do get that email address and we can get in that second touch point and get them into our ecosystem.
Sure, I get it. Jonathan.
Yeah, so I'm going to WordCamp US in September. I think it's going to be a crucial one, even if nothing really is announced of any real interest at it, because I think that will be a statement in its own right. But I actually think that it is going to be one of the most crucial WordCamps in the history of WordPress, because I think there's a lot of flux out there and a lot of unhappiness about the structure, the relationship between WordPress.org and Automatic, about there not being any real clear boundaries between the two, governance, where the project is going. There's a whole witch's brew that we regularly talk about on my Friday show, which I wish we weren't talking about.
We regularly stir the pot.
Because, well, no, actually, Andrew, because we also talk about other tech stories, and I wish we have many targets that we can take fun about. And I wish the news was a little bit more positive about WordPress. Do you sense that, Dennis, in your little office? You talk to a lot of people through your forum and that. What's your own perspective about where the WordPress project is going?
I tend to try and stay out of the WordPress drama just because there's nothing in it for me. No. But if I had to go through, I don't remember, and
I'm not asking you to enter that terrible world. I'm just your observation. I'm asking for.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly who it was. I don't remember if it was Spence or Brian from Master WP on one of your shows was saying that Matt should step down from .org and just focus on .com. And whoever I said that, I don't mean to misquote him, but I'm 100% with him. He should just focus on .com. Let somebody else handle .org.
Well, I think it's nearly there. I mean, we had a lovely podcast with Josefa Hayden Schompersay. We've got to remember she is the director of WordPress for .org, and I'm sure she's got some autonomy there. And so it wouldn't be hard for Matt to pass the reins over fully or 100% to Josefa. And also he's busy with Tumblr. He's got Audrey investment and all that kind of stuff. So he's as busy as a bricklayer on a demolition site.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, Andrew. It just would be best if he handed a lot more responsibility for WordPress.org to her.
But would it matter so much since isn't she still paid by Automatic? So
well, there's
always going to be that little thumb on her.
Yeah. That is a credibility problem, touch spot. I think she's probably aware of that herself. That's the impression I got. I don't know if Andrew. Obviously, she had to be extremely diplomatic about the whole situation. It's not ideal. I doubt I'm pretty sure she understands that. I've got no inside information about that. That's just my impression. I might be totally wrong. But I think the governance needs to be clarified and cleaned up. And I think Vito on last week's Friday show was very vocal, surprisingly vocal actually, about the necessity of that. So what do you think about the Gutenberg? Because I've got such mixed feelings about Gutenberg, and I'm a bit burnt out and tired about having to talk about it, Dennis, because obviously I'm getting bored with it to some extent. I've got to be truthful about it. I just wished it was laid to rest to some extent. What's your own feelings about that, Dennis?
I'm gonna have to say I'm just a wait and see. I'm pretty much agnostic. If in house we're Elementor people whenever we're building something for ourselves, but until it gets more defined, I'm not gonna work on adding it to MainWP or adding it to a plugin because we could spend all that time doing that work and then they change everything. So until they got something a little more solid, which I'm sure they'll get to, and eventually we're gonna have to build it into MainWP, but until they get there, I am ignoring it. MainWP stays with the classic editor. Right now, everything is run basically like the classic editor if you try and do a page or post on MainWP. And until they get something solid that I can trust isn't going to change drastically from day to day, it's going to remain that way.
And that is the crux of the problem, isn't it? We are we are 3 years into this, and this is the crux of the problem. But in all fairness, I forgot the gentleman's name. He does, Andrew, your videos. I forgot the gentleman's name.
Imran Sadiq. Yeah.
I was working away, and it was in the background. He was on WP-Tonic yesterday on a live.
Night, yeah.
And they literally had 2 hours of, and this is my framing of it, they would disagree, but it was 2 hours of complaining about Elementor. It was a feast of complaining about how the company's run, how it doesn't communicate, where it's going, how it treats its user base, how it abuses.
I think
it went on, and I just thought it's not only Gutenberg.
Well, no, but that's part of the WordPress way. It's almost, and I don't want to offend Paul because, or Imran works for me. He's done all the videos for us, and Paul's done a great thing of you do. I love Paul.
But
the point is that they're great. They're both of them are really great guys. But part of the problem, I think, and I think they would appreciate it, is that the WordPress community have a certain amount of entitlement, or feel a certain amount of entitlement. So they're saying, getting Matt to move aside. That's a bit of an entitled view. I mean, he started it with Mike Little, managed to get loads of volunteers. Why, what right have we got to say that he's not, let me finish, that he's not the right guy for the job? What right? I've got no right to say that, really. It's just my opinion. So last night, when they were critiquing Elementor and saying they're not open and transparent enough, well, actually, go and ask Boots or SmithKline Beecham how transparent they are. They're a company, for God's sake, So it just seems, why should they be transparent? They've got their plan. They know which direction they're going in. They've got loads of investment. They've bought a lovely company, Stratic, and anybody that's dealt with Stratic know that the people that run it are lovely people as well, very actually quite transparent, very transparent. So, but it's just the WordPress way. We just feel entitled and say, right, tell me what you're doing. Why aren't you telling me what you're doing? We haven't got any right to really ask that. So I'm a bit on the fence with that, and just saying, well, carry on, guys. You've done a great job. You've got 10 or 15 million installs of your plugin Elementor. Dennis has got 500,000 free installs of MainWP. You've got to be doing something, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, the whole conversation, because they were comparing it. They were comparing it to some much smaller competitors that are much more agile. Yeah, well, of course, they're going to be more agile because they haven't got an enormous user base.
Yeah, but Elementor in the beginning were very agile. I remember interviewing Ben, who used to be the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and Yoni years ago when we started Elegant Marketplace, literally at the start. So 6 years ago, we interviewed them, and because we were Divi focused, they were the new kid on the block. Now, Bricks and Breakdance and all these others, they're all new kids on the block. Of course, we're going to be interested in saying, oh, wow, why can't Elementor have this? Well, do you know what? If you're not happy with Elementor, use something else. It's, and I've always had that attitude of something, my Mercedes doesn't drive as fast as, or my Mini doesn't go as fast as my Mercedes. Well, that's because it's a Mini. That's the whole point.
Before I ask Dennis one final question, I just want to say to both of you is that I really don't want Matt to be totally divorced from WordPress.org. I feel him being a lifetime chairman is a perfect position for him, with a CEO who is not directly paid by Automatic, that is directly paid by WordPress.org or the foundation, and the finances, the governance, the framework is cleaned up, tidied up, is more transparent. But I don't, in any shape or form, want Matt just to be totally separated. I really don't want that. So, Dennis, what are some of your, where would you like you know, I get the impression, but you know, you will confirm this, that you're happy with the way that the company's run, it's bootstrapped. You know, you seem to having direct control seems to be very important to you and your co-founder. What are your aspirations for MainWP? Where do you want it in a year or 18 months? Where would you hope to find the company in where it would be?
One of the things I'd really like to see is those third-party integrations, the ones that we don't touch and that are going. I'd like to see that grow to be close to the 30 extensions that we offer now. I'd like to see at least that many coming into the .org space where, like say WP Vivid for MainWP, that's one of the ones out there. I'd like to see a lot more of those. And I think that would help grow us indirectly. Trying to think of it like a WooCommerce type setup where we have the certain set of plugins that we offer, but we want this whole ecosystem of where you can get any type of different plugins. So we want to keep opening up our system more and more to new people. For example, with the Vito, that we had a couple things that in our API that he needed more of, or he needed changed, and we were able to just go in and make those changes.
More.
But we want to work with more people. We want to work with more companies. We want to see our ecosystem grow because I think that'll grow the company over the long haul. And it also gives us more brand awareness as somebody who may be, just to go back to, you know, WP Vivid, they may be a WP Vivid customer, but then they see a WP Vivid for MainWP plugin also in the repository. And they're like, well, what's MainWP? So I'd like to get a whole lot more of those.
Brilliant. Bit of brand
that'll be my focus. Yeah.
Bit of brand recognition through integrations. And I think that's a great idea. Do you think you'll ever step down? When are you thinking of stepping down? Because you're a young man now. You've got a few years left in you.
I'm closing in on that 50 quick, but you know, I really enjoy this. And now that I've started talking to people and talking to you guys and talking to Vito and the one podcast I've done, I'm starting to enjoy it. So I'm hoping that I can do more of these. I've been practicing some live things using Ecamm Live, so I can start going live to our customers to do like ask me anything type things where I can jump on Facebook and hey guys, hit me with questions. Let's go ahead and go through it. Let's teach me something. Let's teach you something. Things I wouldn't even have thought of 6 months ago, because now I understand. Not only is it just MainWP as a company, but people, they want to know who's running the company. They want to know that it can be trusted. Yeah. They want to know that they can trust you. They can trust what you're doing. They can trust what you're saying. And if you say you're going to do it, like if I say I'm not collecting any information, they can check the code. They know I'm not collecting any information. It's right there. So really just getting out there, getting to know people. I'm going to get better at it, and I'm really excited to get better at it.
Brilliant.
Right, that's fantastic. We're going to wrap it up now, folks. I think it's been a fantastic conversation. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
See you later. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.